Hello, I'm the Angry Spork, calmly taking issue with Batman and Robin Eternal. Previously, Bruce Wayne met a friend at a party, and that friend told him about Mother. That friend was then killed for having loose lips, and his customized wife died with him. Dick Grayson only knew at the time about the Scarecrow portion of this mystery, but it all led to Prague then, and so it does now, where this secret agent is taking Harper Row and Cassandra Cain. If my demeanor is puzzling to you, my doctor found out I was still reviewing a DC comic from this post-Flashpoint idiocy and feared that I might outrage myself, so he prescribed me Calmzitol. By blocking stupidity, Calmzitol can suppress anger for up to 12 hours, preventing violent outbursts and destruction of property. Side effects include apathy, muscle stagnation, tolerance of excessive stupidity, and involuntary hugging. Ask your doctor if Calmzitol is even a real thing. Genevieve Valentine scripts issue 7, which begins several years back in Prague, where a man is running through the night streets and up several flights of stairs in fear, insisting he didn't say anything to the bat. It must be fear gas, he thinks. No way he could be real. If you insist. Next thing you know, he's crashing through a window in front of Robin, while Bats is still situated above. So, wait, he was on the street, went into a building, climbed some stairs, then jumps through a window onto the street? That's crazy. Silly comic. The guy's been fear gassed to stay incoherent, having been promised by Scarecrow to be made fearless, so the duo leave him to the cops and leave to Prague's first Batcave. That's where we pick up in the present, where we're supposed to just ignore the fact that the walls are decorated in skulls and bones. Grayson tells Harper that the tracer she hit Orphan with isn't showing up on scanners, and he must have lost them. Bluebird thinks it's coincidence.
He'd just lost a foot. The man was distracted.
No, he actually lost his right forearm. Either someone didn't clue in the writer of this issue, or Harper doesn't know her limbs very well. And speaking of, whatever happened to that? Did they take it as evidence? Did they leave it to the police? What's going on there?
Coincidence is out of the question, as they know Orphan is in town, and there's a prima ballerina on Cassie's list. And apparently the majority of the people on said list are now dead.
Oh, good. Because of all the things carried over from Batman Eternal, I'm so glad that it's how story points get mentioned as if they were less important than they should be to the overall narrative. Yeah, weren't a bunch of those people listed the guests that attacked Bruce Wayne, and now they're dead? You really shouldn't sneak things up on people like that, comic.
Dick will keep looking for Orphan while Harper and Cass find the dancer. Harper suggests skipping her, but is overruled. The list isn't fully understood, and Grayson wants to be methodical, without assumptions. Then Roe makes a crack about how comforted Tim would be to hear that. When did she get told about Dick investigating the Drakes?
Just to clarify, Harper just suggested skipping someone targeted for death. She's basically okay with someone who is essentially innocent dying. What a hero.
Grayson tells Harper that they need info. Cass trusts her, and the pair work well together, which is a weird conclusion when Cass has had to save Taser Girl from Orphan twice, and that's about the extent of their time together. Harper's done nothing to actually earn Cassie's trust, but hey, par for the course. Grayson pulls a skull, revealing a back closet with some old costumes and a couple tuxes, lending his own to Harp. Within a couple panels, she's put it on, and insists it looks better on her because, again, she loves to praise herself. She'll steal something for Cass to wear, which Grayson says he wants the name of the store to write them a check, because stealing is okay when Harper does it. Like when she stole from Tim. Speaking of, Red Robin and Red Hood are flying to Gamera. Then the latter wants more details on Tim living the fantasy of punching Grayson. Tim ignores him, saying the same signal that activated Mother's killers is within a square mile of a market they're currently in. Todd has a better idea. A local bar, where he again presses Tim about his tiff with their predecessor. The younger bird boy says punching Jason may prove more satisfying if he doesn't clam up, and wonders what would make him confide in the red doofus anyway. Jason says he's familiar with abandonment, being forgotten, and seen as untrustworthy. But hey, he's not one to guilt trip. Then again, he could try not defiling everything Batman taught him and being an overall jackwagon in the process. Tim says he needs to consider every possibility, and if Dick is willing to question their trust, and if he's compromised on a global crisis, then he needs to go data hunting alongside someone who understands why he'd punch Grayson. That same someone frequents enough bars to recognize black market types. Suited up, Red Hood now back to his jacketed look, they've chased one such individual into a back alley for questioning.
And no one suspected the two guys that excused themselves into the bathroom before two costume crime fighters coincidentally walked out of the same bathroom and plucked one of the customers from a booth.
Flashback, where we see Bruce talking with another associate, Hamilton, who says Mother isn't upset, yet, but desires discretion. Money doesn't guarantee your audience. She'll find who she's looking for. Wayne isn't interested in games, but Hamilton says she likes beauty and those who appreciate and understand it, like the ballet. Bruce needs to prove he needs this. In the present, Grayson runs the rooftops while Harper arrives at the ballet with a newly dressed Cassandra. Backstage, before the production begins, one Madame Kovar is praising Sarangarel, her best dancer. But now's not the time for sentiment. There's a show to perform. Kovar slinks into the shadows, softly pleading, "Please, Mother, not yet."
She leaves the most visceral Yelp reviews.
A 2-page spread shows some of Cass reacting to the show and a bit of Harper's reaction to her reaction.
It is a nice touch that Cassandra enjoys the ballet, given she reads body language like we read a pop-up book. But if you're familiar with her from before Flashpoint, you know that's kind of a no-brainer. I doubt the writers on this book are the first ones to think of it. In fact, I know they're not. And it didn't need Cassie being completely reinvented to happen. And it certainly didn't need to involve Harper Row. It absolutely didn't. It just didn't. It didn't. I'm freaking least.
It's intermission, and Harper checks in with Grayson, who may be back on Orphan's trail. The girl wouldn't mind switching places since she didn't exactly care for a 3-hour version of a 5-minute fairy tale, Grayson snarking that she should try sitting through Giselle, but she's got a dancer to keep an eye on. Backstage, Kova is motivating her pensive star, reminding her about the purpose of her role as Sleeping Beauty. She also makes a reference to Giselle, and Sarah notices that Agatha is behaving strangely. She hands the girl a phone, and a moment later, she's saying hello to Mother. Perched on a giant clock, Grayson struggles with his tracking equipment, mentioning this would be easier for Tim, until he gets a ping and is back on the move, contacting Harper about getting Orphan's signal. Just as it seems Roe is starting to enjoy herself, Sarah and Cassie exchange glares, and the latter realizes that Mother has made a move. Elsewhere in the building, Agent 37 closes in on the signal, only to find the tracer stuck to a backdrop. He starts to go static as Sarah pulls a blade from her crown, and Harper realizes they've been made, just as the dancers charge off stage. Pretty subtle clue there.
A mother in the back said, "Everyone attack," and it turned into a ballet blitz. Ballet blitz.
Grayson's lost contact with his new allies as Mother appears, standing in front of a backdrop with a cross that says Giselle on it, saying it's good to see him again.
You never call, you never write, you never become a mind-controlled assassin.
Issue 8, Valentine still on script, begins in Prague during the hunt for Scarecrow. In their formal best, Bruce goes to skulk around since Crane may not be able to resist a theater full of people, while Dick stays behind to scope out the seating area. Wayne enters a room marked Sokromi, check for private, and the next page splits between him meeting Mother then and Grayson confronting her in the present. Meanwhile, Harper radios that she and Cassie are under siege by the whole cast, not just the Prima. Funny that she took the time to put her mask on and do her hair just right. Also, for a girl who never got training from Batman, and the training she did get was never specified, she's holding up pretty well against mind-controlled killers, going so far as to knock one down, catch her blade in midair, while jumping towards another enemy and stabbing him in the leg.
Good. That's nice. The many writer's conveniences we saw in Batman Eternal are continuing right here.
The pair can't hear Grayson's call as Mother has the signal jammed, yet we saw dialogue of Harper calling him, and he won't be able to reach them in time. If he tries attacking Mother, she'll set the crowd on fire. Somehow. The woman continues to taunt that Grayson was never the heir Bruce hoped, probably kept ignorant by being told he fulfilled some greater purpose. He could have amounted to more if his parents' death actually drove him, then he'd be able to save his companions before they're killed. But if he wants to find out just how that would work, he could always go with Mother.
Go with Mother while the girls are killed to find out how you could have prevented the girls from being killed.
Speaking of, Harper runs behind the curtain and pulls a lever, causing a fixture to fall on some of their attackers, which possibly killed some or all of them, or at least crippled? Because who cares that they were being manipulated, right? Certainly not Cassie, apparently. Mother says the pair are putting up more of a fight than Grayson, who wants to know the identity of the Robin she supposedly built for his mentor, if she did so at all. Mother's amused that he doesn't know, though pitying him if this is their idea of family, thinking she'd have done a much better job of raising him. They're playing with the prospect of using their respective weapons when we are jumped back in time to Mother's meeting with Bruce. He wants to marry, claiming his standards are something of a hurdle, and was told of the woman through a friend. Against the rules, but it's how I get new business. That sounds weirdly contradictory. Certainly, she has other means of getting new business, otherwise why have the rule? As Wayne discreetly plants a tracking device on her, previously hidden in his watch, Mother agrees, but suggests they return for Act 2 of the performance, saying she'll keep in touch and that he'll be pleasantly surprised. Then, back to the present.
Remember how the first Eternal series did a lot of jumping back and forth from place to place? Well, this story is doing kind of the same thing, but in points in time. It is a little less jarring, but still jarring, and admittedly it works better for this particular story.
At least, by comparison. Cass and Harp have defeated most of their enemies, save for the prima ballerina Sarangarel, who almost gets the drop on Bluebird if not for Cassie's interference. The two tussle as more controlled dancers advance on Ro. Cass does a fine job until an attack from behind by Agatha, telling Sarah that she's successfully killed the girl. The dancer seems to snap out of it, calling the woman Mama, and they leave as Cassie gets to her feet. She hobbles back to Harper as their foes seem to have gained a second wind. Elsewhere, Mother wants to show Grayson what she made before it's gone. And it is all gone. You saw to that. Prague's ashes now.
She is really being more cryptic about her operations in the city, but with the way the Eternal books go, there's a very good chance that she set fire to all of Prague off-panel.
Grayson acts like losing Prague isn't a big deal, making Mother indignant, since there was a lot the secret agent had ruined in one night. Hearing more of the fighting, wow, they're close enough to hear, but apparently too far for Grayson to run and help them. Well, Mother says that the girls are either strong enough to survive or not, and if Grayson commits to staying, they'll never meet again. Just as the girls are being overwhelmed, Grayson arrives to help turn the tide, bringing the rest of them down. I'll admit, the visual of the three of them in the center of the spread looks cool, but that's not quite the same as anything substantial being built between the characters involved. Later, the three are recovering, Harper thinking they did a fine enough job. She playfully grasps Cassie's hair, which had been cut in the fight, and the girl flips out. After a triad of panels showing someone having their hair pulled, a knife to their neck, and a splatter of what is likely blood, Cass runs off, with the other two about to give chase. Just look at the terror on her face.
She just realized she's being reinvented and is looking for a way out of DC Comics.
Back with the Reds, Jason and Tim have chased their target, Jean Metier, into a church, which is strange as the town's biggest tech dealer wouldn't go somewhere without defenses. They split up to sweep the perimeter while Jason recalls a time he snuck up on an old lady during Vespers and had a black eye for a week. I guess that was supposed to be whimsical or something. We jump back to Prague for a page. Seriously, this stuff again. Where, after looking for hours, Dick and Harper have returned to the local cave, without Cassandra. Grayson recalls Mother saying she wanted to clean house, mentioning City Hall and a nursery. Maybe the chaos will shake loose a lead, and in the meantime, they have to stick together.
The useful characters will deal with the threat at large, and Harper can be somewhere off panel.
Admittedly, Grayson's statement about there being few enough of them left, juxtaposed to the bat costume behind them, is a nice touch. Subtle hint that Batman's not around to help them right now. Returning to the church, the pair of Reds have regrouped, with Jason noting that the back entrance was left open, but the target still hasn't moved. He could be hiding, or maybe waiting to scramble their brains with some weird, funky device, but Tim disagrees. No, have detected, probably meaning to say, I'd have detected, then spots Metier behind the altar. The man is ranting in French, seeing the pair as demonic figures, attributing his condition to the Angel of Death.
For this panel, the part of Red Hood will be played by the Red Skull.
Issue 9, something of a first for the series, is scripted by two people, Jackson Lanzig and Colin Kelly. It sees Tim and Todd in Santa Priscan airspace, being pursued by a local Air Force, and Tim blames some of it on lousy equipment Jason got. There's a back and forth about swimming the Pacific, and Red Robin having multiple forms of shark repellent on him at all times, which would be funnier if this story wasn't already so infuriating. Missiles are inbound, and Drake seems hesitant to give up his plane, as if he can't evade or counter them in any way, but the pair jump out before the big kablooey, one by his stupid new 52 wings, and Hood with a cloak he stole from Batman. When they land, Todd mentions how much he hates Santa Prisca, since he was there in his time as Robin, and screwed up so bad he got the silent treatment from bats for a week.
One way to interpret this is that Jason still hates the island because he is reminded of disappointing his mentor. But if he cared about that, he wouldn't be a gun-toting, remorseless murderer of people he personally deems okay to kill. On the other hand, maybe Bruce just didn't want to talk to him because, well, Jason Todd is a terrible character.
Evidently, the Angel of Death mentioned in the previous issue has taken out 10 black market tech dealers in the current year, and each of the victims had a connection to the Order of Saint Dumas. And just as Hood says he doesn't believe the Order has a monastery on the island, we get the standard contradiction on the very next page, where it seems Peña Duro, the worst prison in the world, has gotten something of a makeover. Tonight on Trick Out My Prison! Red Rob exposits that, while not a traditional church, the followers of Saint Dumas have allegedly performed some high-tech miracles, and may actually be trying to do some good. But they've been dealing in tech with the same signal as Mothers, and Hood thinks there's a villain alliance afoot. They became powerful enough to run roughshod over Santa Prisca, and wherever they operate, their legend spreads. Bane pounces from the foliage to punch Jason to the ground, then bounds back into hiding. Hood is eager for a rematch, but the Bruiser isn't taking kindly to the idea of being hunted while his island is bleeding.
Be very, very quiet. I'm hunting poor wee Wetcon 90s villains.
Red Robin throws a couple batarangs that accidentally hit Hood. Sure, accidentally. Before Jason throws his foe off him with his legs. Bane is suddenly without his mask as he regains his footing, declaring that the jungle gives him strength without his venom steroid or mech suit, and Jason decides not to waste bullets on the guy. Tim joins the fight, mentioning the people Bane left behind in Gotham, bleeding themselves, but the strategist insists that it was only those who followed him, and he makes sure to remember their names.
They seem to be referring to Bane's involvement in Batman Eternal, but I don't recall him ever having any actual followers. He was either on his own or made temporary alliances, unless they're again talking about some other incident, in which case they're pretty light on the context. Either way, it's shaky ground for this nobility subtext they're trying to give him.
There's no Batman to watch over the boy wonders, which feels like an insinuation that he knows more about the Robin legacy than an average villain would, but again, no context. I'm still not even sure if Bane knows Bats as Bruce Wayne was... whatever, I don't know. He slams Hood to the ground, shattering his helmet, and pauses when Red R pulls one of Jason's pistols on him, not worrying about wasting bullets. They want answers, the wannabe luchador wants the Angel of Death, and both are found in the former Peña Duro. If they work together, then for all Tim cares, the island belongs to Bane.
Pulling a gun with intent to kill and total antipathy to someone like Bane ruling his own island, with no indication that he's bluffing. Tim Drake. I say again, screw you, comic!
In the Prague Batcave, Grayson is looking for clues in Batman's old files, since Mother has wiped her operation from the city, taking everyone she controlled. Harper's working a Wing Chun dummy, is frustrated about staying put and not looking for Cass, and her yapping gets her struck twice. Since the girl clearly isn't as smart as her opponent, Dick tries to pass on his quip-related wisdom, to keep comments short and not lose focus. But Harper's too cool for advice from someone with actual experience. He says she gets distracted constantly, but we've never seen the negative effects of that in the past, against people with guns or super tech. Grayson says that even though her tech makes Tim secretly jealous, and being angrier than Jason makes her strong, she's gotten by mostly on luck. Well, luck via bad writing to be more specific, but he can't tell that. Harper gets indignant, talking about how her mom was murdered with no leads to the killer, her dad was a crook and a drunk, she got smart and angry to be a hero without Batman's permission, and condescension isn't going to stop her from saving lives. Grayson stammers a bit, not having known about her past, then makes a peace offering of saving lives by going through paperwork. That perhaps her fresh eyes will see something he missed. She agrees, but still wants to hit things.
First off, Tim has been seen claiming he has built his own base, battle androids for combat training, and a robot house for his parents. What about Harper's modified tasers and that one time she got free junk from Batman is worthy of his envy? Second, if being angry alone was what made you strong, I could thrash a few dozen Hulks right about now. It's controlling your anger that makes you strong. But they had to find a way to make her one-up Jason Todd, like that's such a high bar. Third, you act like you'll do anything to save lives, but you were just willing to risk the death of a ballerina being controlled against her will. Fourth, Richard Grayson saw his parents fall to their deaths before his very eyes, and he's conceding to Harper? This could have been an optimum moment for the two to bond in a sort of way, but no. Grayson just completely stepped back in reverence to how totally awesome Harper Row must obviously be in her own right, and deserves to be a petulant brat. I guess that's why, way back in the first Eternal series, Harp said Stephanie didn't have the monopoly on sob stories, because that clearly belongs to Row, like everything else she doesn't deserve. Screw you, comic!
As for Harper calling herself a hero, I'll just leave this quote from Seeley Booth and leave it at that for the time being. Back to the story. It's years ago, and Bruce is narrating his situation while looking like he's going to a costume party, poorly choosing to dress as Jack the Ripper. Within 24 hours, the device he planted on Mother cracked into her network, revealing her connection to Scarecrow and his European operations. Robbins implemented a surveillance plan for Crane's manufacturing locations, while Wayne is off to see Mother. Upon arrival, Mother wastes little time calling him Batman. Playing dumb doesn't work against this foe, though being dumb can really get you places. And she reveals she found the device, fed it decoy info on Crane, and lo and behold, the boy Wonder was sighted at one of his facilities. As Bruce dodges Orphan's sneak attack, Mother notes how the rich boy made a pittance of the gift that was his parents' death, slicing at him with her dagger-tipped cane, and likening his devotion to vigilantism as a child's tantrum, without a mother to guide him. So if Martha Wayne had lived, you'd be okay with it?
Why did I say that name? Why did I say that name? Hey, if this series can recycle tropes and idiocy, I should be able to recycle a joke or two.
Mama Nutjob claims she's doing what nature tried to do for Bruce, and Bruce for the young circus boy. Put children through their worst nightmares so as to emerge free from fear, doubt, and pain. And she would murder every parent in the world just to mold their children in such a way. She doesn't kill Bruce off because she knows he doesn't want a wife, but does want a better Robin. Wayne says nuts to all this, breaks her cane weapon, tosses a smoke screen, and retreats. Mother holds Orphan at bay, letting her would-be customer go so her words will weigh on him until fear and doubt bring him back.
Well, the doubt, or when he realizes I stole his wallet. Either one works.
While Bane shaves and guides the Robins in their infiltration of the monastery, he tells them the story of the island's namesake, a girl named Priska. When strongman Marcus Aurelius sat the Emperor's throne... Okay, that might be a typo where it should read sat on, but there's a chance it's grammatically correct, if more obscure. Anyway, he wanted only his gods worshipped, but of the many that held their faith in Jesu Cristo, aka Jesus, Priska openly defied that order. They tried jailing her, torturing her, feeding her to a lion, but she was fazed by absolutely none of it. Even the lion was passive to her. So they decapitated her and mounted her head on the walls of Rome, but anyone who would approach the body of the child martyr would be attacked by a black eagle.
I did a little reading and found that there was in fact a Saint Priska with this story, though there are some differences with Bane's recitation. For one thing, nothing I've found suggests a black eagle protecting her grave. He also got his emperors wrong. One source I checked said Priska was accused of being a Christian in front of Claudius, who ruled Rome between 41 and 54 AD, not Marcus Aurelius, who was top dog between 161 and 180 AD.
They've entered the dungeon, quaintly named the Banquets, for its population of fattest rats, and Bane notes it's colder than it should be. 34 degrees is too cold for anything.
Except for, the numerous animal species that survive in temperatures lower than that. Wuss. Heck, I worked in a freezer for over 5 years, not wearing much more than I am now, and the fact that this version of Tim Drake couldn't handle one of my old jobs really doesn't inspire confidence.
They find wine casks, but according to the magic scanner on Red Robin's gauntlet, they're actually filled with an unfamiliar compound, made inert by the cold. After Red Domino Mask at the moment, picks the lock of a large door, the three enter a hall when a drone floats by. Shooting or crushing are bad ideas, and the Order's tech is beyond Tim, so he can't override it. But he can confuse it. Bane leads them to the galley where the soldiers will be gathered, and find the brute's own men, one of whom, a bearded ginger man, taking a drink of the wine, which will no longer stay inert within his stomach. He utters in Spanish that he can speak, though the bulky breaker of Batman's back mentioned he was born mute. After Tim snarks at Hood for thinking the Order is still all propaganda, a voice bellows about heretics in their sanctum, telling brothers and sisters to get out. Red R says the advanced encryption keeps him from locating the speaker. He could be anywhere!
Yeah, it's like you could be in an echoic room, or maybe using a speaker system.
The voice claims to have been with Bane when his mother was thrown from the walls of Peñaduro, present when Batman was struck down. Which time? That's happened a lot. And Red Hood he knows best, as they met on the other side. Tim isn't impressed, as most of that is public knowledge. Funny, I didn't get the invoice about Bane's mom. But the voice says they have no secrets from God, and thus, not from the man in this corner, the Almighty's righteous blade, the last to die, the angel of death, Azrael!
Great. Just dandy, because after screwing up and giving us spoiler alert instead of the Stephanie Brown we wanted to read about, and being well on your way to fouling up Cassie Kane with a needless new origin, I was just thinking we need another character being reinvented for a rebooted universe that no one wanted and most readers seem to tolerate at best.